Hello and welcome. As always, thank you for tuning in and stopping by. Always wishing each one of you a great day. If you enjoy this type of content, please give it a thumbs up, comment, share, and subscribe. I will greatly appreciate that. Guys, today's question: are hammer fire handguns going away? In my humble opinion, no, they're not. Now, I do understand and acknowledge that 70 to 72% of the market currently is being dominated by striker fired handguns. But the question is, out of that 72%, and that is in the USA, by the way, only. Okay. So out of that 72%, what percentage is being designated to contract, meaning government agencies, law enforcement, versus the civilians? That's something that we have to think about for a minute. Now, some individuals may go ahead and describe that, hey, the reason why hammer fire handguns are being discontinued or are slowly being discontinued, it is because of the number one, there's more simplicity on a striker fire handgun. Well, I can kind of agree to that there's less or there are less moving parts on a striker fire handgun versus a hammer fire handgun. That can be true. However, other individuals are using as an excuse that the reason why they're ditching hammer fire handguns, it is due to that transition from double action to single action. Well, my response to that is lack of training. Why do I bring lack of training up? Regardless whether you have a hammer fire handgun or a striker fire handgun, you should be doing at least dry firing at home. I'm not stating that you should become a commando. No, dry firing is always a must. Let's use as an example law enforcement and agency. For the mass majority, they used to be carrying 40 Smith and Wesson. What are they currently carrying right now? 9 millimeter. Why is that? Well, because a few decades ago, when law enforcement used to be carrying, and the FBI, 40 Smith and Wesson, they noticed that some shooters were not being effective with the 40 Smith and Wesson caliber. That is lack of training, because I can guarantee you that for the mass majority of us, the viewers, you can get on target between 10, 15 yards with a 40 Smith and Wesson, have some follow-up shots, and your grouping will still be pretty decent. Well, no, they transitioned to 9 millimeter, which again is a great round. Don't get me wrong. That's what I currently carry, by the way. So the excuse of transitioning from DA to SA, that is unacceptable. Let's use the 1911 for example. I get it that it's single action only, but 1911 is in 45. So yes, you have a just a single stage trigger on 45. I totally understand that, but still it's a 45 round, which still packs decent amount of punch, just like, for example, your 40 Smith and Wesson. But again, this is not a topic about ballistic. My point is that this is lack of training in individuals. Me personally, I have a huge connection with hammer fire handguns, my CCs, my HNKs, and I own Glocks as well. So I own both platforms and I truly enjoy each one of them. Now, cost, and this is the big one. For a firearms manufacturer to produce a striker fire handgun and a hammer fire handgun, there's a big difference in cost. So let's use for an example. Let's talk about CZ, CP10 from the same manufacturer, and look up the stats. How much does it cost CC to produce a P10 versus a P07? It will definitely cost more CC to make that P07 7 because there are more parts with the firearms. There's more research. Well, I won't say research, but there's more moving parts with the firearm, of course, and testing with it to make sure that the handgun is definitely a quality grade handgun. So the cost, it is definitely a huge one and a plus. So with that being said, me personally, I do not see hammerfire handguns going away. There's definitely a nostalgia to it. They look classic. The appearance looks classic. There's a emotional connection with the handgun. I'm 42, well, close to be 42 years of age. And I remember I was born in 84. So looking at handguns, I grew up seeing hammer fire handguns. So there's a big nostalgia to that. So the classic look, the feeling, that connection with the handgun. Again, the mass majority of competition shooters, they use hammer fire handguns. That definitely is another plus. It sets a lot. That means that you, as an individual, you're definitely more proactive into the training portion and trigger manipulation and control of the handgun. And that's it, just the connection. So, what's your thought? What's your comment? Do you think that we will be eventually losing hammer fire handguns, or are they here to stay? Please go ahead and put your comment down below. As always, I appreciate you stopping by, tuning in, and we shall see ourselves in the next one. Bye bye.